There was no 3.
3.
Oh, okay. Welcome to another day in Gamer's Remorse. Today we're going over a new segment, our debate. We're trying this out. So today I'm moderating this debate. The debate topic today will be best thematic game. The 2 key points will be what is the best themed game, as well as the most replayable of these themed games. Essentially, I'm having these 2 convince me of which game of the 2 games they are bringing to the table, which one I should buy over the other.
So the category beset upon us was...
Oh, sorry. There is a rule of no RPGs, no tabletop RPGs, as I feel like those are their own category.
Yeah.
My fault.
The category beset upon us was heavy theme with high replayability, I believe, right? Most thematic game was originally what was put to us. And so I've been playing a fair amount of more Amera thrash type games lately, which is kind of outside my box. Usually I'm a Euro guy. But I have found a lot of fun in like heavy narrative element type games, narrative driven. And so out of all the games I've played, I think the best thematic wise and high replayability is Shadows of Brimstone. Right? Have you guys heard about this game?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, you know what Gloomhaven is?
Yes.
Okay. So Gloomhaven, giant box, right? Very tactical, right? It's a tactical board game. You have your miniatures, you have cards in your hand, and you move around, whatever. Shadows of Brimstone has very much the same elements, but fixes all the areas in which Gloomhaven falls down for our game group. Which says something, arguably. I mean, Gloomhaven, #1 game on BGG. This game for our game group surpasses it. So that means it probably just doesn't have the hype behind it, but better. More thematic, better stories, right? Fixes the gameplay. Gameplay takes forever on Gloomhaven because it's very tactical. All right, you have a hand of cards and you're like, I don't know, I want to move over here and then I have to do that. And it's probably about 3 hours of a single fight. Like that's a tremendous amount of time. Shadows of Brimstone changes that. They said, okay, we're going to do dice rolling mechanics. Your character has some base stats on it, right? Kind of like an RPG, right? So you have lore, you have luck, you have agility, you have strength, very similar. You also have a combat score and then a range score. Your combat score, you get to roll the number of dice it indicates. So I'm playing I haven't even told you the theme. Oh my gosh, I'm terrible at debating. Just horrible at this. Okay.
Do you have a time limit on your opening argument or something?
Yeah, 5 minutes, I think. Have you been keeping track? Okay. So the theme is this. So Gloomhaven is very, standard RPG-esque.
Yes.
Shadows of Brimstone, the idea is this. It's set in the Old West, except for there happens to be alien artifacts that appear. So you can be a gunslinger using an alien weapon. How cool is that? Aliens can beam in the middle of your dungeon crawl, and then you have to fight them. There's also, standard Old West bandits. There's Cthulhu-style monsters that can appear. There is a swamp raptor. Just throwing that out there. But you basically have your base box game. I'm sorry, let me go back to theme for a second. You're collecting this dark ore. Dark ore is like these rare resources you find inside a cave. And if you get too much of them, they will actually start to mutate your character. And you have to roll for your mutation you gain. So I have a Native American shaman who uses dark ore to cast spells and do kind of like these otherworld type abilities. And I just grew a tail, which arguably is actually kind of cool. It's creepy, but it's cool because I can actually hold a 3rd weapon now. So now I have 3 melee type weapons. Anyway, so you're playing this game, you are going through this dungeon, you collect your loot. After every fight you gain loot, unlike Gloomhaven, where you have to wait for the entire end of the dungeon crawl. So you walk out of there with a ton of loot, you're equipping all these weapons, then you go into a town. There's a town phase where you actually interact with the town, and they're each individual towns in this made-up world of Brimstone, effectively. There's a campaign book, so you're going through and it's doing this whole campaign, but there's also a mode where it automatically builds what the campaign elements are. You can also build your own campaigns. There's a huge online group creating all these campaigns as well. So overall, terrific. There's also tons of add-on content if you want to do that, but the base box game will probably make you happy for a couple years. We haven't even played through nearly 2% of it in the 2 weeks we've played. So, yeah, that's why I think Shadows of Brimstone is good. The lore is super thick, the replayability is super high, and each interaction I've had has been wildly different. So, that is why I think Shadows of Brimstone is arguably the best thematic game I've heard of and or played. Full stop.
All right, Ryan.
All right.
What game are you bringing to the table?
I am literally bringing to the table Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective.
In Shrink. Oh,
In Shrink.
That's Jack the Ripper and West End Adventures. That's
Oh yeah, this is Jack the Ripper West End Adventures. Still Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. So, the theme of this game is fairly genius. You are essentially urchins aiding in the investigating of murders or various crimes within London and the surrounding areas, and you're attempting to solve the crime in a more efficient and timely manner than Sherlock Holmes. You have a map of London or West End or Carlton House or Queen's Park or various other locations based on the scenario at hand. You choose a location, you go to said location, you find a corresponding paragraph, you read said text, and then you say, what did we learn? What do we need to know? Where do we go from here? You are literally embodying a detective. You aren't controlling a random character. You are that character. You are using your own abilities to deduce what is happening. You are using your own innate knowledge to do. There's no random number generator. It is purely, are you a detective? Are you capable of solving a crime? As you travel about, you'll be taking notes, you'll be discussing with your fellow detectives, you can be interviewing police officers, you can be talking to coroners, you can be looking at the scenes of the crime. Fabulous, just delving into the game. There's various things that come up. You'll have to solve puzzles, you'll have to analyze data and numbers and just try to figure out who could possibly have done this. You take all the information you've gathered, you go back to 221 Baker Street, and then essentially you're given a list of questions. You answer those questions according to the information you deduced while wandering around turn of the century London. You then read through the results, see how many points you got. You gain points for answering questions correctly. You lose points for going to too many locations. And then you see, hey, did we do better than Sherlock? So why is this so thematic? Because it is you. You are in that timeline. You are a detective. The theme being detective, essentially. You can't take away that theme and you can't re-theme it. The game only works because of the theme. A lot of other games, you mentioned Gloomhaven, for example. Gloomhaven fantasy theme. You can take away that theme and put it in space. The game still works, but totally different theme. You can remove that theme, put it in 1920s. The game still works. This game, you need to be a detective walking around the streets of a city trying to solve a case. The game is heavily reliant on theme, and it comes with 10 adventures. So you play it 10 times, and you can go through them with different groups. It plays 1 to 8 players. I have played the same adventure multiple times and got thorough enjoyment because I'm teaching a new player. And so I will act essentially as a loose guide, but I won't, because I have a degree of remembering what happened, so I won't be like, oh, we need to go here, but I can help them analyze and process data, and you get the joy of watching those people process and fall in love with the game. So in the box, you will play this minimum of 10 times. There are 3 or 4 expansions. You can have 30 or 40 separate cases that you can play. That's mass replayability. How many of games that you own have you played 40 times? For me, it's not many. Most of the games I own, I haven't played 10 times. But I have played Jack the Ripper Consulting, or Jack the Ripper West End 10 times. I've played Queen's Park now 7 times, Carlton House 7 times. And there is the other one that I have yet to pick up, which I will play 10 times. So mass theme, you cannot strip it of its theme. It is so dependent on theme, you cannot remove the theme. Mass replayability, you will play it at least 10 times. I would argue, and Board Game Geek would agree, that top 100 games, this is the most thematic. It was a debate on Board Game Geek a while ago.
I was going to say, Gloomhaven is actually listed as the most thematic.
No, if you go into like the forums where people are having this debate, people have decided by vote.
So random anonymous people.
Yes. Never doubt the internet. The internet knows everything.
Why am I asking you guys? Guys, what do you... No.
Nice. So now,
So rebuttal.
Rebuttals.
do you want to go first since you're already on yours, or do I go?
I'll let you go. You haven't talked
okay.
for a while.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like technically Eric should choose who goes. He's the moderator.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Okay. So you had mentioned that this has mass replayability. You can play it up to 40 times, assuming you get all the expansions. Are they really expansions, or are they standalone adventures? That is standalone, yes? I would argue that's a different game than the base game. They're each $40, 50 MSRP maybe. That's not really an expansion. So you get 10 times to play that game. Right? Shadows of Brimstone, 1,000, an infinite number of times, 10. Right? That's problem number one. Problem number two is, you had mentioned this only works if you're Sherlock Holmes investigating a case. I think you ended up saying it if you're just a detective investigating a case. I could argue I could place that in space, Battlestar Galactica. Right? You're trying to track down a Cylon. I could totally rewrite that for that. In fact, I don't have that one, but I have Mythos Tales around here somewhere, where they rewrote that game for the Cthulhu universe. Same game, totally different dynamic. So I would say you can replace the theme, thus making it not as thematic as you said. It is a terrific game, right? I mean, no contention about that. I merely mean that some of the assertions you made maybe aren't quite as poignant as you meant them to be. Take it over to Shadows of Brimstone. Yeah, you could probably replace the theme. But how cool is a theme where it's the Weird West? It's Wild West with alien artifacts. Oh, and did I mention you can actually go to those other alien worlds? You can open up gateways which take you to those other alien worlds, which are very unique to Shadows of Brimstone. They have an entire different bestiary, if you will, of all these different classes of aliens and different things that you can do. And it meshes so well with the Wild West. It's beautiful. When you go into town, you can actually do gambling events. You can get into trouble with the local law offices there and never go back to that town again, so you have to go to different towns. It's just a beautiful, beautiful thematic game. This is coming from a guy who doesn't really like Amerithrash games, for what it's worth. I will say it does suffer a little bit from luck, just to be totally upfront, but that's part of gambling, right? That's part of a dice chucking game as well. So, in my rebuttal, I included a couple of maybe mistakes in mine. I'm helping you out because maybe a little bit forthright about knocking some of yours. But I conclude with that game you can play 10 times. Shadows of Brimstone you can play nearly an infinite amount.
All right, Brian.
So first off, the theme is not Sherlock Holmes. The theme is Noir Detective. Exact same theme. Marvelous game. You said yourself, it's a marvelous game. You can't remove the theme of detective, because now you're just reading a book. For the game to work, you have to be a noir detective. The game is that reliant upon theme. And you are correct, they are standalone games. I will give you that. But they are also, I would argue, I don't want to say freely expandable, because you mentioned there's like the community on BGG making stuff for Brimstone. That same community exists for Consulting Detective. I've, just for fun, started creating some of my own even. But you take that exact same theme, and then you just move the location. So the theme being Noir Detective, you move that location. So I'm writing one in Waterdeep, for example. So you take it to the Forgotten Realms. You can take it to the Cthulhu mythos. You can take it to space. But the theme being Noir Detective. For attacking your game, that's what I should be doing. I'm sorry, I am breaking the rules of debate. For Brimstone, however, I feel like the theme is... They utilize the theme. I won't say they don't. It sounds like they do. but the theme is completely unnecessary. You could take that same mechanics and rule set and put it in a fantasy universe. You can put it in a purely sci-fi universe. You could put it in a purely Wild West universe. They just happen to mix all those together for their theme.
Can I interject something?
Sure.
Battlestar Galactica. You hadn't mentioned that yet. I could put this game in Battlestar Galactica.
So fun fact, I'm glad you brought up Battlestar Galactica. I mentioned I changed my mind last minute
yeah.
on what I was going to argue. I was going to argue Battlestar Galactica. That was what I was originally going to bring to the table. The reason I think this is more thematic than Battlestar Galactica is because with Battlestar, you might not have any Cylons. So the game Battlestar, for example, you may or may not be a Cylon, you may or not become a Cylon, but I have played a game where there ends up being like no Cylons because we play the +1 rule and no one happens to draw the Cylon. But that's just a random element that may or may not come into play. You don't have to weed out the Cylon necessarily. If you're a good Cylon, you won't get weeded out.
So this game could be in the Battlestar Galactica universe.
No, I'm saying you take the theme of detective, like I was saying earlier, and you can put that theme into Battlestar Galactica. That's very accurate. That is how good this theme is. The theme is so good that you can take the theme of noir detective and you can put it in any universe you want. The theme is noir detective. The universe can be whatever you want it to be.
But Shadows of Brimstone isn't good because you can put it in another universe.
No, it isn't good because the theme doesn't matter. You're saying, it's this Weird West. I would say you can remove the Weird West and it's just rolling dice. That's what you're doing. Whereas with this, you cannot remove the theme. The theme being noir detective. Your theme is essentially dungeon crawl, if you will.
Dungeon crawl, then visit a town and interact with the people.
That sounds like Dungeons and Dragons, if you ask me.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure you just broke the rules. You brought a tabletop role-playing game to the table, sir.
I would wager. Well, it's not considered a role-playing game. It's considered a board game on Board Game Geek. But I would say you had said these are great because you're playing a detective in any world you want.
Detective.
Yeah, you are a detective in any world you want.
You're playing a shaman. You're not the shaman. Your dice dictate what you do. Here, it's my own innate ability to be a detective that determines what I do.
Ish.
Purely.
Purely?
I'm just out big words.
So you're actually going and talking to the baker about what he saw the other day when he saw Moriarty walking by. You're actually doing that. You're not reading a section of a book that tells you what happened.
I am figuratively, literally doing that.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm figuratively, literally casting a spell.
No, you're rolling dice.
You're reading from a section.
I am mentally deducing a best course of action.
A very faint difference is what I'm hearing.
I do not rely on external luck.
Fair enough. This is kind of devolving into a...
Yeah, it really is.
I think it has to eventually, though, right? Eventually we have to have one back and forth, otherwise it's...
I'm going to start watching more political debates and see how they do things.
Yeah.
You'd be interrupting us and telling us to shut up,
sir.
really.
Sean, it's Brian's turn. And I'd be like...
You're like, oh, I don't want to.
So I guess this is the point where you ask
I feel like,
questions.
we should let him ask questions.
Yeah.
If he has any questions.
Okay, so Shadows over Brimstone.
Of
Brim...
Shadows of Brimstone.
Because I kept hearing Brimstone, I was like...
That's my company!
Your company?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Brimstone Creative.
Which you're now being shadowed.
Yes, apparently.
When you... Box. Open it, what is inside this box? I mean, is there...
Good question. You have a bunch of miniatures, including like Old West bandits. These are your enemies, by the way. Old West bandits. You have several larger monsters. So they have something called I believe it's called a Goliath, that looks kind of like a Cthulhu type monster. He's big and green. He's got tentacles coming out of his mouth. You've got a whole bunch of like alien spiders. I forget what they're called. Anyway. You have, of course, your suite of characters. I believe it comes with 6 characters, but you can get like tiny expansions, Simon style, that adds on new characters. The Shaman, for instance, is a expansion. But it comes with like a gambler, a gunslinger, a cowboy, a marshal, a saloon girl. I think that's what they call her. It's maybe a G name for what she actually is.
Yeah.
And then, a deck of cards. So you have a set of loot cards. You have a set of scavenge cards. You have your terrain elements that actually builds up your mine, effectively. You're going through this mine. And then you have a set of cards that will automatically populate your mine, because you don't actually know what it is. Like Gloomhaven, you preset it up. You know the entire thing. This has kind of a fog of war sort of effect, where you flip it and it says, oh, now it splits into this path.
Okay, so there are, like, buildable...
Oh, yeah.
Terrain elements to it. Okay.
Yep. And then there's... You obviously have your campaign book, and then you have your auto-generated campaign rules. You have a darkness deck, so each room that you open... each round you take to go into the mine, darkness is slowly moving up, a la Arkham style, right? And it has phases in it, so once it gets to the second phase... really bad things happen when you have to pull from the darkness deck. When you get to the third phase, really, really bad things happen. They basically want you to get out of there. And then, of course, you have tons of dice. And tons of chits. And I mean, it's Marathrash, so I'm not going to go into all the components. There's a lot of things in it. But, I mean, the box is actually bigger than Gloomhaven. Consider that. It's like one of these tombstone boxes.
What's MSRP?
Twice
you know?
tall. Oh, can I look? Can I phone a friend?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's above 100.
All right. While you're looking that up, Brian, box.
Yeah. So in the box, you have your basic rulebook. Every game has a rulebook. But then you have a directory of London, which is a list of people that you can go through. Thousands of names. You can find whoever you want to talk to, essentially, that may or may not be necessary. You have a map of London.
Oh, I was wrong. Sorry, go ahead.
You have a map of London, you have your directory, and then you have 10 mystery books. So you read an intro mystery book, and then you just choose where do we start going. You look at the map of London, you start making deductions, you flip through the directory, you look up names, then you go to your guidebook. So you say, we're going to go to this hospital. So you find the hospital in the book, you read what happens, you analyze it. Most of the game happens in your head. Most of the game is you deducing and discussing with your fellow players. Very minimal components, very simple setup. You go from putting the box on the table to playing in less than 3 minutes. You can finish a game in anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour.
So that's what's in the box?
Yes.
71.
Much more reasonable than your over 100.
Yeah. What's money anyway?
The basis of my life.
How I feed my family.
Oh.
Here's a 1, son. Go ahead and eat that. All right, so what I'm gathering from both of your arguments is that the themes essentially, you're saying on his it can be moved around and it's still the same game.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas he's saying that once you remove the theme, it is essentially...
The game's broken.
No.
On his?
No, on mine.
No, I'm saying on his, you're saying.
Okay.
On his game.
Yeah, on his you don't need the theme.
So essentially...
They just took a bunch of themes and threw them into Blender and poured it on top of cool stuff.
I feel like they're, listening to Shadows of Brimstone, that's one of those...
Right? Because it's always over, by the way.
Well, over
Camelot. Shadows over Normandy.
Yeah.
But they chose of. I don't know.
What was the D&D adventure system one that we were doing with the...
Which one? Elemental Evil?
Yeah. Or was that it? The one that...
Age of the Apocalypse?
The one that
Castle Ravenloft?
The one that we were playing that had the continuation.
Elemental.
It almost has that sound of that, like where your character gains things. Granted, like it's D&D where you don't like get a mutation per se, but there is that continuation. So it does sound very much of a dungeon crawler esque.
Can I interject some points of maybe why it's different?
Yeah, go ahead.
Excellent. Okay, so I've played the D&D adventure system.
Yes.
Boring. Snooze fest.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah. Sorry, it is. You are just literally rolling die, and you're like, I don't know, I have an action. I'll get rid of this trap, I guess. I don't know. Then I'll move over here, and right? Meh.
I would disagree. I love the adventure system.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Then you should really love Shadows of Brimstone.
I don't know. The theme sounds meh.
Each tile that you open up as you explore, hear me out. You get an exploration token. At the end of that exploration, or at the end of the round after everyone's gone, you reveal what that is. A card will appear and have a very thematic narrative element in regards to what will happen next. Sometimes it's you open up a gateway to another world. Sometimes it's an option that happens, right? You find an old miner who's mumbling to himself. Do you approach him and ask him about, what's going on, or do you back away slowly?
So it's a side encounter card.
Precisely, except for you don't know the result. And so you have to figure out, well, what's the smarter thing, right? A fight might break out if you handle it wrong. Or you might get a really cool, valuable, rare alien artifact. Mm-hmm. That's quite a bit different, I say. The Doom track legitimately has that rising tension that's happening. That's a little bit different than the D&D adventure system. And then going into a town and actually keeping some sort of faction with each of these different groups is quite a bit different. You could wager, yeah, it's miniatures on a board and you're rolling dice, same game. But I would say it's wildly different because of all these different additive elements and going to other worlds. That's all I got.
So, Battlestar has been brought up countless times already. I have not played
It's a good game. I recommend it.
two of the games mentioned. Two of the three games that we've mentioned, Battlestar and Shadows. Or, yeah, we'll just call it Shadows because I don't remember where it goes.
SOB
next.
is what most people call it.
So,
Not even joking. That's what
Yeah.
most people call it.
Yeah.
Because that's its initials.
Yeah.
I don't agree with this. Anyway, have not played those. I played this, I believe, twice, maybe? Possibly?
At least once.
I know I've done it at least once. No, I'm going to call that a one time that I was not playing. That was a horrible experience for me. Alpha gamers. And,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's rough in that game.
So that one time I will not count as I was playing, but I have played it once. I had a question and I lost it. Oh, what sets apart from these three? Like,
Which three? Sherlock Holmes,
Sherlock, Battlestar,
SOB,
and-
and Battlestar?
yeah, because that has been mentioned so many times.
Well, Battlestar, you have a traitor element. In neither of these games, you would have a traitor element. Right?
But right.
Battlestar was not an example of mechanics, I don't think. It was a discussion about whether you could remove something from the theme, and right?
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, well, he said that was arguably what he was going to bring to the table.
Oh, sure.
So, like, as far as, like, say, thematically and replayability, what sets these games apart?
So,
with those
yeah.
parameters, not necessarily, like...
Sure. Should we go one for one?
So, yeah,
You
so
wanna go
I guess
first?
I'll explain why I chose this over Battlestar.
Yeah.
If that works.
Yep.
So Battlestar, great game. I really enjoy it. But the problem with it, in my mind, is replayability. I really liked the theme, but I could take the theme of Battlestar, or the mechanics of Battlestar, I could fully remove the Battlestar theme, and I could put another theme on those same mechanics, and the game still works. So I could remove Battlestar, and I could put that same game in another universe, and the mechanics work. You don't need Cylons, you don't need a spaceship, everything works. So I decided the theme, while it uses the theme brilliantly, you can remove the theme and be fine. The theme being Battlestar or space exploration. With the theme here being detective murder mystery, you can't remove the detective murder mystery element.
Oh, nice.
So the theme being Detective Murder Mystery, you cannot remove Detective Murder Mystery from the game. The game only works because the theme works. You can take that theme, Detective Murder Mystery, and you can put that theme in another universe. So you're playing Detective Murder Mystery in Battlestar, or Detective Murder Mystery in Star Wars, or Detective Murder Mystery in Waterdeep. But the theme of Detective Murder Mystery is crucial to the game, which is why I picked this game over the theme being Battlestar, or weeding out who the Cylon is, if you want to call it that.
I mean, isn't that true of every murder mystery dinner party game, though? You're playing someone trying to deduce what's happening because the mechanic is deduction.
I would say to a degree, but I would say with this, it's more of a game. A murder mystery party is more of a event. It's not much of a game, to the same degree that this is a game.
Fair enough.
I feel a murder mystery party would fall more in the line of role-playing,
Sure.
as opposed to tabletop game.
Sean? Like,
I'm still pondering that. I mean,
Okay.
Clue, for instance, it's deduction, and you're playing people at a party trying to play investigator, trying to figure out what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Using that same argument, could you not say that Clue is equally as thematic because you couldn't remove the theme to fit another game?
No, because the mechanics of Clue have been rethemed.
Example?
Supernatural. You're trying to find who is being possessed, rather than murder mystery. One of you is possessed, you're trying to figure out which of you is possessed.
Is that not akin to this? Where they really just took a different universe, but it's the exact same thing. You're playing an investigator trying to resolve what happened because deduction is also the theme you're talking about.
But again, here this is essentially. I'd be curious to know how they made this work. I haven't played Mythos Tales. I'm more interested in the copyright side of things. But like with this, both of these games, if you look at the theme being that detective, that aspect of deducing information, that differs from Clue, because in Clue it's not necessarily, solve a case set before me so much as mitigating things away from people. So part of this, the reason this theme works, is the theme involves all of you working together as these urchins, essentially. In this case, they're urchins. In this case, I'm presuming you're some form of investigator. Mm-hmm. But you are working as a team to solve a crime on behalf of Holmes. Whereas in Clue, you're fighting against each other. And you could take that aspect of non-cooperation, if you will, and tear that apart. So it's saying, okay, well, I'm going to adjust how I handle things. You don't deduce things so much as there's a lot of luck on who you pull, what you draw. So, for example, with Clue, that game has been broken in our family. We're not allowed to play it anymore.
Yeah, because you listen to what other people are asking questions.
Because we have broken the game.
Yeah. Okay, so you're saying
Whereas
Clue,
with this game, you can't break the game.
Sure. Clue is competitive, this is cooperative.
Correct. And the cooperation is crucial to the theme. Because of the theme of that true detective noirness, you need that cooperation.
Sure. Okay, I'll move on. I was going to say... This is cooperative as well, though, so it's the same game to me.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying this game took this game, and they just added new mysteries. I feel like that's all this is new mysteries for this game.
Yeah, there's Cthulhu elements and what have you. Yeah. Ish. I'm still trying to gnaw away at your point that the theme is inherent to that, because I think it exists over here as...
Yeah, but I think you're thinking theme as London, that era.
I'm thinking talking to Sherlock Holmes. You don't talk to Sherlock Holmes in this one.
Well,
you don't talk to Sherlock in this one. Well, you can, but that's
you do
cheating.
at the end. Well, yeah, but you go to 221B at the end and compare notes with Sherlock. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. But you don't do that here.
No, but I'm saying the theme is detective. The theme is solving a case. Sherlock Holmes has nothing to do with the theme of solving a case. He's just added flavor.
I think he's arguing, isn't that the same theme?
Yeah.
And so I would say the theme here is detective. Yes. I would say Cthulhu is the universe, but the theme is detective.
All right, I'll move on. It's subtle. So your question was Battlestar Galactica. How is Shadows of Brimstone better?
What separates the three games? Not what makes it better, but what separates as far as why not bring these games? Like, does that make sense?
Kinda. Okay. So, SOB, if you will, right?
I hate this.
That's the reason I'm going to lose this debate.
No.
Is not... so it's a cooperative game, but it's co-competitive at the same time, right? So you're trying to get different loot elements. So sometimes you're racing ahead, running down this hallway to try and be the first one to scavenge as a scavenge action. So you're looking around the room, and you might get some loot out of the deal. You can get the loot first, and then you can choose whether you want to give it to someone else or sell it back at town. So there can be a co-competitive element. I would say the other games aren't very monetary based at all, right? So that's totally different. Equipping any sort of equipment to your character is totally different. These games tend to play like more of a cerebral aspect, I would say. You would agree with that, right? So this one, you're basically in your head the whole time, and occasionally you'll talk to your other players and say, hey, we should go here because of X, Y, Z, and you kind of all have to agree on where you're going, sort of a thing. Move over to Shadows of Brimstone, you can actually run down a hallway by yourself. But if you get too far away from the person with the lantern, you can start hearing voices, and you start to go mad. So it's very spatially driven, the Shadows of Brimstone. These are very cerebral. So in your mind, you're picturing talking to this person and what have you. I would say they're quite a bit different. It's hard for me to really compare all the ways in which SOB is different than the other games. Also, the other game's a party game. Battlestar Galactica, I would say, do a little bit. I think it supports up to 8 players.
It supports a large group, but I
Yeah.
would by no means call it a party.
Okay, it's not a party game. What I meant by that is it supports a massive number of people. One could argue with this, however, the more people you add, the more hard it is to get everyone to agree where you're going in town. Because you're expending points as you go to these
Yeah.
places.
I mean, the box says 1 to 8. I would argue don't play with more than 4.
Agreed.
I feel that's true of most games.
Yeah, that's
I would say that's true of
absolutely
all cooperative games.
But sometimes you can also get dragged to places. So I played this game with, say, 5-6 people or something like that, and they're, when you get overruled by the majority, it kind of is unfortunate because it's like, guys, we should not go there because of X, Y, Z. If you can't get them to agree, you end up getting dragged to like the barbers or somewhere that's completely outside the realm of any reason of why you should go there, and you end up losing points because of it, and you end up getting frustrated. Shadows of Brimstone, you can actually drag the party somewhere else, or not drag them, but you can go over here and they can go over here, but you're going to end up suffering the cost essentially. So that's
So
kind
it's
of nice.
worse.
Well, no, because you can do your own thing at a cost. Versus that, you're forced to do what everyone else wants you to do at a cost. But you might get a benefit by splitting the party effectively.
Never split the party, sure.
Yeah, you really shouldn't, but sometimes it helps.
Okay, so final thing. In one short sentence, sum up your game.
One short sentence. Highly thematic, extremely replayable, miniatures, tactical game with dice chucking and narrative elements.
There was a lot of punctuation in that sentence.
It was one sentence.
Lots of commas, couple semicolons, but only one period.
Several conjunctions, yes.
Right?
Yeah, I would say it is a deductive game in which you are one of the components of the game, solving a murder in which efficiency and deduction are key, sided with collaboration and teamwork.
And deduction.
Lots of punctuation. Short sentence just went out the window.
And I would say with both of these games, this will be a knock against all of our games here. A single alpha player ruins everything.
Yeah.
Like, you're explaining your game, I'm like, oh, that would be fun. I would never play it with this guy. And that's the same guy who, like, we played this with.
I did miss a point that I wanted to ask quickly. What is the biggest fault of your game?
think I mentioned that earlier. For me, it's the randomness of the game. As you're drawing cards, random. You're rolling dice, random. But the sheer number of dice that you roll does help to mitigate some of that. Yeah. And the loss of a die roll isn't like the end of the world. It's just like, that's frustrating. And then you get your turn again eventually.
Yeah, and I'd say you highlighted my biggest weakness, which is the alpha gamers. Which I mitigate by, I mean, I've played almost 20 rounds of Consulting Detective. I don't invite alpha gamers. That's true of most cooperative games. I have an alpha gamer friend who loves co-op games. If I know want to play a co-op game, I just don't invite him.
Do you think alpha gamer, this is totally off topic, do you think alpha gaming is a scale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you invite a whole bunch of level 1s, which are like completely passive people, and you're level 5, does that make you the alpha gamer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So by not inviting alpha gamers, you're the alpha gamer.
Yeah, so like this would be a great discussion for another time maybe.
Yeah.
But if you have a scale of 0 to 10, like I'd say I'm probably like a 5 or a 6. I have a couple friends who are like 9s and 10s.
Yeah, 11s. I think I know 11.
Yeah. So like I don't like to play cooperative games with them. The problem is alpha gamers tend to love co-op games.
Right.
I find.
Isn't that fascinating?
But like me and my wife play a lot of Consulting Detective, but we're about that same level of alpha, so it's perfect.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty much fully collaborative.
Nice.
And I feel like with Shadows, the group that I'm thinking of that I'd play with it, probably 2 of the people I'd play with are fairly alpha-y, and I feel like that would ruin the game for me. So I would have to be very careful who I sat down to the table with.
You can play around it a lot more than what I've seen in other games. Because you can split off and be like, I'm going to do my own thing.
But like in a dungeon delve, like I hate when I or other people do that. Like that can ruin the game for me.
Oh yeah, because the monsters are super high level then.
So like if 4 of us are like, let's go here, and you're like, I'm going to go over here, you just ruined that game for me, like that play experience.
Fair enough. What I've done is I've increased my stats for movement. And so if I do spawn a bunch of creatures, I just run back to the group.
That's even worse. Why don't they kill you?
Now you've doomed the whole group.
Yeah. I'd be like, can I attack our Indian?
I'm also an AoE player, so I'll get everyone together and just start raining fire down.
See, you're the kind of guy I don't want to play that game with now.
It's terrific. Because then we all share the loot, right? If I were to do it by myself, I would get loot cards.
Well,
as a group, everyone gets
Can't you
loot
just
cards.
share the loot afterwards and be like, hey, let's split this evenly?
So the more people that are in that fight, more loot gets dropped.
That makes no sense.
I mean...
It's a scale.
Yeah.
But if I kill an enemy, that shouldn't change how much loot is on him based on how many people are around me.
That's how it works, man.
So, which I'm almost hearing is it's almost like an MMO in the loot share sense.
Like, first one who grabs it gets it sort of thing?
No.
Oh.
So, like, MMO. So, like, World of Warcraft, say.
Yeah, like ninja looting? Is that what we're talking about?
No. I'm just saying loot, like, as a whole, like, in the scale-wide. Like, you could have a raid, essentially, go in with 2 people, and it's, the loot is there, but still, you add 25 people to that raid, or
You'll get a lot more loot.
Yeah, I mean, there's potentially more loot, or better loot.
Thematically, that makes no sense.
So the more people that are involved, that are playing the game, the more monsters you have. The more monsters you have, the more loot you end up with. However, the part where it's not making sense, kind of agree. You could say that, in that if I'm the only one fighting them, I will grab 1 loot card per monster I fought. If
So
there
you're
are 4,
fighting 5 monsters, you get 5 loot cards.
I get 5 loot cards. Now, if there are 5 of us in there, each of us gets 5 loot cards.
Yeah, that thematically doesn't work for me.
So, like, it's each, like, monster has a number of loot, like, loot, but it just, it's not necessarily, like, an open loot. It's each individual, like, okay, we've killed this, I individually, like, you can individually go and loot that. Like World of Warcraft, you kill a random monster, you want to skin it, get that loot. Everyone that's around can do that.
Yeah. So here's where I think I'm glad this came up, because I think it's a point in my favor. If I'm in the woods, we'll use this game for an example, and I attack a bear, and I win, and I skin the bear, I get a bear pelt. Now the 2 of us are together, and we attack a bear, and we each skin the bear, and we now have 2 bear pelts. even though we killed one bear? Like, that doesn't make sense.
I totally understand the logic.
But they broke the theme because mechanically people want loot. So they ignored the theme of you killed a monster to make people
Totally
happy.
understand. Let me poke a hole in your whole game's basis, right? Sherlock Holmes already solved the investigation he's
Not
sending
always.
you to do. Not always. So sometimes he's already solved the investigation and he's like, cops, I'll tell you later. I want these ragamuffins to figure it out. It'll be fun. So a whole day elapses that this person could have gotten away or whatever, and then you go back and compare notes, and he goes, oh, no, you're wrong. This was the answer. Thematically, does that make sense? I feel like Sherlock wouldn't do that.
Sherlock would totally do that.
Sure, but the police would be there and be like, no, seriously, Sherlock, what's the answer? I won't tell the scruffians.
So a lot of times in these, you leave, Sherlock's working another case.
Sure, and he's too busy to say
Yeah.
two sentences as to what the answer is.
Exactly.
I get it.
Exactly.
Thematically, broken as well.
Except if you read the Sherlock stories, like that's totally something he would do too.
Fair enough.
So it plays the universe.
It plays the universe, but not the theme.
Yeah. Well, the theme is you are the detective, so it totally plays the theme.
I don't think that's the theme. I think the theme is Sherlock Holmes.
No, I think the theme
I
is
think
noir
you're-
detective.
You built a new mechanic in that says the mechanics to the theme is new thing called theme. don't
I
think
would
that's
say
true.
the theme is noir detective. And I would say
the
Sherlock is
the
flavor.
marriage between mechanics and theme is what you're talking about.
I
and
would
that
say
you're-
Sherlock is the flavor, not the theme.
So what is the theme of SOB?
Dungeon crawl.
But you go to town.
You also go to town in like role playing games.
So role playing.
You can
games
go
are
to
dungeon
town. You can go to
crawls.
town in Elemental Evil.
Just saying the argument's invalid because of that. This got weird.
Yeah, I don't want to moderate. I'm buying neither. I'm going home. All right. So we've heard both arguments.
For what it's worth, I don't care what you pick.
Thank you.
I've had fun haggling.
Haggling.
Ish. Going tit for tat over SOB.
It's a real sob story.
And socked.
Good.
Shock?
I think it'd be good.
Shkt.
Good.
Sherlock
Sit-
Holmes Consulting Detective. Shkt. Right? Shkt.
Enough turning initialisms into acronyms. Would you like to flip a coin?
I think I've made my decision.
Okay.
But the issue is, I don't know if I agree with my decision.
So what is your decision, and why might you not agree with it?
I also feel like, for me, I think there is a to a degree lack of information for me to fully make a decision, if that makes sense.
Ask a question. What more information would you want?
Oh, probably about 2 hours worth.
Sweet.
Which we
2
don't have.
hours later.
I assume it's on my side because you've played that game.
Yeah.
So you understand the flow incredibly well.
Yes. Yeah, so then it becomes like, okay, I want to understand this game.
Do you understand the flow of it? Because I haven't really had a chance to talk about that.
No,
Well,
yeah,
neither
yeah,
of
yeah,
us
yeah.
But I
have.
feel like both of these games, not necessarily, I feel like I can explain this game in 30 minutes, seconds. But I feel like the complexity in Shadows makes it too difficult to explain in like a
Yeah,
time to debate
It
format.
would be difficult. I could walk through it in maybe 2 minutes, but we might already be over that. I mean, we've already started the thing once, so it's over 18 minutes.
I mean, technically, you're supposed to have like 5-minute argument, 2-minute rebuttal, and that's it.
Yeah.
Sure, but that's where this gets difficult because we're talking about very complex topics.
Yeah.
We're not talking about what's better, free lunch or not.
But like,
Like,
imagine now to like the
Easy
political
to wrap your
realm,
mind around.
where like politicians have 2 minutes to explain like tax theory.
Tax is bad. Over to you.
That's why I don't watch political debates. It's like, take this topic that people write a thesis on and
Right.
with 30-second response.
Right, and fill it full of bravado and
Yeah.
try and make people think that you're better.
And call that person short and stupid.
So
Yeah.
yeah. To come to full conclusion, I will actually say I think for me, following the criteria, and also taking the debates brought to point, SOB does win. I feel like the replayability has a higher opportunity. While the theme can be replaced, the theme there. I would argue almost that theme is being redefined in your terms, whereas you're almost saying that mechanics are a theme, essentially.
Yeah,
marriage
that's,
between
That's
them.
what I'm saying is the main argument for this. And
Yeah.
going into it, I'm like, either
Yeah.
they will agree and this will win hands down, or they won't understand. And my argument is the theme is the mechanic.
Yeah.
That's why this game is so thematic, is the theme is the mechanic.
For what it's worth, they're both in the top 50 thematic games on BGG.
So
That's not nothing. They're both good picks.
yes. So I would argue that theme probably leans more towards this way, but overall,
But replayability outweighs it.
yes. As well as I think there were certain points that Sean brought up that that countered this one, as well as played towards his. So I believe, in my mind, from my stance, SOB, Shadows Over Brimstone wins.
You're never gonna get that right.
Shadows over!
You're never gonna get that right.
I'm gonna own the game like next week, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, Shadows over."
Of.
Like, I'm just gonna have to like tape a huge thing that just says "of." Anyway, not that I'm saying that I'm gonna own it next week, but yeah. I'm just gonna call it SOB because
Right?
I'm never gonna get it right. SOB. I lost where I was going.
It's more replayable.
Yeah, the replayability has a higher opportunity for replayability. I'm just
Mumbling.
redundancy. So yeah, there's higher opportunity for replayability within SOB, whereas there seems to be a much more limited without the knowledge of what happens.
Totally agree. I really wish they would come up with like an expansion that's like a card deck that would somewhat randomize these. I don't know how you would do that because of the newspaper aspect.
Yep.
But man, that would be amazing if they could figure out a way to make that replayable. And the community content is one way, but again, that is only so many
There's only so
of
many.
those. So.
Yeah. Yep. So I from my perspective, I believe Sean and SOB wins.
But which would you buy?
I actually am highly considering because of a certain group that I have for SOB.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Which would you buy, Brian?
I mean,
He already has.
I already have.
Assuming you don't have.
I already have these. I will be buying the next one of these. And SOB I would play if I had the option.
You will.
Eventually I'll have the option, apparently. But as we've discussed on previous reviews, like, for me, theme can be very crucial.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I would play SOB for the mechanics. The theme does not intrigue me at all. Like, what did you call it? Weird West?
Weird
Weird
West.
West.
Like,
yeah.
that has no appeal to me whatsoever.
I mean, it's cowboys and aliens.
But
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
But like, I would play it for the mechanics, not for the theme.
Fair enough.
Because the mechanics sound really cool. I really like the sound of the mechanics.
If I had neither, I think I would buy Sherlock Holmes first, just because I like the idea of it either being a solo game or I can play up to however many
8
people.
players.
8's a terrible idea. Would not do it. You could maybe have 2 groups playing at once and then deliberate in the end. You know, but like you shouldn't be able to hear them is the trick.
Hypothetically, could you have 2 groups playing and race each other as they are racing?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Sherlock.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what would make it a lot more interesting. The problem is you'd have to like be like, I don't want to hear what you're talking, you know.
Well, no, I mean like you
You just
essentially
text
like
each other.
You get glass booths that are
say you have
soundproof.
say you have 2 copies, and essentially what one. Yeah, you don't even need a moderator really. I mean,
No.
so like you have like 2 groups, say one house, 2 separate areas of the house. Timer goes off for a certain amount of time, whatever. Come back,
Yeah.
but
But I will say I probably will be getting Shadows of Brimstone if I can make room on my shelf.
you can get rid of Food Chain Magnet.
Tell you
Don't
what,
think
I'll
the
take.
box
Tell
sizes
you
are
what.
the same. I'd have
Tell
to
you
get rid
what.
of my entire Ticket to Ride collection.
All right, Sean, I'm gonna do you a huge favor. I will, out of the goodness of my heart, take Gloomhaven off your hands.
It might actually fit in that little cubby hole. Pass.
And I will gladly take the collector's edition Takanoko.
Right? Oh, that version's so cool.
I know. Which is why I take. Anyway, back to the debate.
This is supposed to be a 15-minute
Yeah.
short and sweet debate.
so-
It ended up
so
being
Sean-
like an hour.
Next time, do you have a question for us?
Ooh, I get to create one.
Yeah, so the winner will be the moderator.
Best, in your opinion, I guess not in your opinion, because you'll both be like, it's my opinion, I won. Best collector's game. A game either highly sought off by collectors, self-listed as collectors.
So not like a collectible card game,
No.
but a
no,
game
no.
that people get for the sake of collecting.
Yes.
Define best.
Board game,
Like
by
most
the way.
enjoyable or
Or
hardest
highest
to
rated.
find?
Combination of the 2. Or
That's tough. Let's go with, most enjoyable? Like one you would want to play. Not just one you would want to have for the sake of collection.
So it's more one that we think you would want to play. Because we're convincing you.
Sure.
So what do I think you would think is the best?
And that could
collectible?
even include like overbuilt games, out of print games, difficult to find games.
But it has to be something that we could acquire. So I can't say like Mammoth Catan, like from Gen Con, because we can't acquire.
Oh yeah. No, it has to be available retail somehow,
Retail.
not
right.
you know.
Would it have to be like a certain parameter of availability and within like certain sites? Like, I mean, you're not going to go off to like, okay, it's for sale on this Chinese site that.
I'd allow the Chinese site.
Okay.
Yeah, the scope of this just went.
Yeah, it was. Oh.
Again, it's out of print even, so it could be this was once for sale, no longer available.
All right. To that, I say the Emperor's Jade chess set.
If you can find it on Miniature Market, it probably isn't in the running.
I mean, we're talking like high scale, like black market auction. Like,
Sure. I'm not talking like gold encrusted chess set from King Louis V or something like that.
but I mean, it could be a highly sought after.
Do you want me to give examples or?
No, I'm
Okay.
just I'm saying fitting these parameters that those would fit.
Yeah, they would. I'm just giving you an indication of what probably won't win.
But like, would he care about some fancy chess set? Probably not.
Yeah.
No, well, I'm not saying. I'm just saying like, okay, this could fit the parameters.
Oh yeah, it
So,
could be.
Like Emperor Wu's Emerald and Jade chess set from the Ming Dynasty.
Sure.
Yeah, it goes for 13 billion on the market. You know,
Yeah.
I saw it on the dark web. No,
Does this topic interest you guys at all?
no,
No.
Really? I think I already have my answer.
it really doesn't. Like,
Really?
because I don't really care for collectible stuff. Like,
I love collectible stuff.
I know you do. So I'm just kind of like, okay,
You just mentioned Takinoko, man. That's a great entry.
Well, yeah. The thing is
It
like
probably wouldn't win, but it's
No.
a great entry.
it's a great entry, but like, yeah, I just collectibles like with like even like in video games, the collector's editions like just there's no.
Video game collector's editions are weird.
Oh, they're terrible. But like.
I got a Steam collector's edition. What? No, I'm kidding.
Like Halo collector's editions comes with like memorabilia, things.
Oh yeah, like a tiny statuette that has no purpose. Sure.
No, I mean yeah, but like there's one that I got that has like a like diary book of like Dr. Halsey, things like that, which actually are really cool. To read through.
Sure. I would
lore.
argue usually a tangible object like a board game comes with something extra as a collector.
Well, yeah.
You can't just label it collectors and have people sign up.
Yeah, but at the same time too, but they're also just redressing the components. Like
yeah, no, it doesn't come with extra capability. Ooh, the 10th anniversary Stone Age coming up does come with a winter element, which is novel. That's new gameplay. That's what you were just talking about. That's like getting 20 new levels in Halo. Never before seen. That wouldn't interest you?
Not necessarily, because like at the same time though, it's just like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we're debating this already.
Because like my first thoughts, 10th anniversary Catan, 20th anniversary Catan, the one I would have brought, War of the Ring Collector's Edition.
Wait, would have brought? Are we now?
I would not. The one I would have argued.
Brought to the table.
Yeah.
Not necessarily brought with us physically.
Sure.
But
the fact that you're sharing this information, does that mean we're no longer doing the collector's one?
Well, I wouldn't bring that now because I just shared it.
Oh, okay.
I would bring
Okay,
something
so you chose something else.
So I'm saying like that's what I would have brought.
Yeah.
But like those are the first things that come to mind.
Yeah.
For that argument. But then I feel like even StarCraft, the board game, could be an argument. It's not a collector's edition.
Absolutely, it's out
but
of print.
It's a highly sought after collector's game.
Yeah, it's out of print.
Fortune and Glory.
Fortune and Glory.
There's so many options
Twilight
out
Imperium
there.
First Edition.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Maybe.
actually sought after.
It isn't. So it has like really, really old mechanics in it. Every time they come out with a new one, they add more stuff based upon the newer trends in board games. Which makes sense, but it's kind of cheating. I would just sell a new game personally.
Yeah. But they know people will.
Yeah, for the brand now. Anyway. Was that making more sense? Do you want me to choose something else? You seem unsure.
No, I'm fairly certain on it.
Okay. All right.
Hero Quest.
It's just
Hero
not
Clicks.
something I'm very passionate about is all. So it's just like
Monopoly.
I have to
Original
find a passion somewhere within this debate to be like, okay, how do I argue this into my favor? Which is just kind of more of a like, how do I become passionate about this when I'm not at all?
Welcome to the world of debate.
Fair enough. The other one I thought about doing was best kids game.
So that would have been something I could have easily been like, okay, sure. Like that one I could debate, but
Except for I think I already know the answers, which is why I didn't go that way.
oh, but do you?
I'm pretty sure Animal Upon Animal would have been one of the entries given. I'm pretty sure.
It's not what I would have brought.
Not what I would have brought.
Really? Anyway, we'll save that for another time. Anyway, that's been our debate.
Who do you think won the debate? Comment below. Welcome back to another episode of Gamers Remorse. Today we're doing our new debate system, and we will be. We just jumped right into this. I have no idea what I'm saying.
Should
I need
we
to fix this
take
anyway.
two?
It's driving me nuts.
Oh, hey, I can finally see me.
Yeah, it's also kind of just like a.
This is weird because I'm trying to get... Like, that works for the thing.
It looks tilted. Doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're right. Looking at the bubble thing, this needs to go down further.
I mean, I'm just looking at the camera.
that!
I'm
The
just
whole
looking at
time we've been playing like... We're all falling down. That's awesome.
Well,
Much better.
have fun editing.
Yep. Everything gets a 20-degree rotation. Okay, hey, guess what? We're still recording. I'll stop it and start it over again.
But will you? Will you really?
Right, so how am I doing this? Like,
They're going to say, new segment here on Gamers Remorse. We're doing a spirited debate about games set up by one of our members. We're going to say, a category, and then the other two are going to bring a game or the idea of a game and debate it.